Hello, we are so glad that you're here with us in TalkBack. Thank you for your questions about the message this morning. And so Christy and I, Reverend Christy Dillon, our pastoral care catalyst and pastor, we are going to field your questions this morning.
All right, so we had two questions inadvertently left off from last week that we'd like to just quickly touch on so that we can move on to joy. The first one was, how do you respond to the Christian who says, if you feel too sad or depressed, is it because of unconfessed sin?
Feel too sad or depressed, is it because of unconfessed sin? What do you think?
I would say I think it's important to remember that sometimes being really sad or really depressed, like in a bad place, a lot of times it's because of the mixture of chemicals in your brain.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Absolutely. So that's my first thought.
Well, I think that's true, and I think we discount that. And what I don't want to have happen is us to answer this question, because there are lots of different ways of looking at these things. I don't want us to answer this question and then us go around and go, oh, you're really sad, you sinner. I mean, you've done all these bad things and you've not confessed them. Because, I mean, chemical or clinical depression is a real thing, and we've talked about that in one of our TalkBack episodes, when we talked about sadness.
Yes.
You know, depression is real, and science is real. Exactly. And that's actually what I love about what we're getting ready to talk about starting next week, the Happiness Project. Yes. Dr. Santos studies science and research around happiness. And so there are some real statistics that we're going to talk about. So it'll be interesting.
That sounds exciting.
So, but to your point, there is truth. Confession is a real thing. I asked a friend of mine the other day, what's it like to be Catholic and go to confession? Like, tell me. And he's like, what? I'm like, I want to know what confession's like. And so he described it for me. And I do think that's real. Thousands of dollars of therapy. My therapist taught me that we are only as sick as our secrets. So if we carry around some heavy stuff, it really does weigh on us and mess up our minds. So I do believe confession is real, especially to God and in our prayer, and that catharsis and healing comes from giving voice to the things that we hold on to that make us heavy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Okay.
All right, and the next one from last week, it's fun, so it ties into this week. It wasn't really on the subject of the sadness, but what's with the rubber chicken on the speaker stage on stand?
It's a great question.
And I don't know if everybody knows the real answer. So it all started at the very beginning of West, and my wonderful husband, Adam Lumley, he took the rubber chicken and started putting it somewhere on the stage to see how long it would take Andrea to notice if it was there.
Why did we even have a rubber chicken?
Well, I'm not really sure, but I remember Adam just being like, I'm just going to kind of hide this, but make it where everybody can see it and see how many weeks it takes before Andrea's like, what's a chicken doing there? So
and it did.
How it all started.
I mean, the first Sunday, there's a chicken on the stage. I'm like, not sure why that's here, but I mean, I didn't want to it was our first Sunday as a church ever. And then the second Sunday, and I had, after worship, there was so much energy. I didn't have time to talk about why was there a rubber chicken. So then the next week it was in a different place and different place. And then I thought I'd be sly, and I figured out that they were trying to, do it to me. And so then I took it and hid it backstage, and I'll be darned if they didn't find the thing and put it back on there the same day. And so then when it came time to establish our core values, West is a place where all means all. And all people are welcome. So we have made that like our little mascot. We have a rubber chicken now, and it's a part of who we are, and it symbolizes that all people are welcome, even rubber chickens.
I love that, because it was started out as kind of a joke at you.
Yeah.
And then it
as have many things.
It turned into a core value.
Yeah,
always
it did.
And fun.
It
and
did. And
one.
fun, absolutely.
So it takes care of two of our core values. So
That's
I
exactly
guess
right.
we owe Adam for
And
thank you
infinitely changing.
Yes.
Because every week the chicken changes where it is. So that's 3 West core values.
Yes.
And Christy wins a prize today for knowing the West core values.
Yep. And they even asked about it yesterday at annual conference
Oh,
because
did
they
they?
saw it on the stand above the TV. What's with the rubber chicken?
Did
And
anybody know the answer? Like
Amy
that
Co-
Adam started
Amy
it?
Coles.
Did
Well,
she?
not that Adam started
Oh,
it, but
okay.
she knew the meaning of
Just
it.
that it
so,
went with our-
and she told the bishop about
Nice.
what the meaning of the rubber chicken was.
Okay.
So yeah, it
I
was.
bet that enlightened him.
So funny.
Oh, all right. So on to our questions this week about joy. How do you make the shift from negative thoughts to focus on joy? I stay stuck on all the negative.
That is so easy to do. I mean, that's what happened to me this week.
Me too.
You know, it started out on Thursday with the COVID scare, and then I had a really hard meeting that did not go the way that I had hoped, and I just I had a couple of pastoral care phone calls that were just heavy, and people were dealing with such heavy stuff. And so that was Thursday, and then Friday, I just felt a lot of pressure. I was over the worship committee, so I was anxious about how worship was going to come across yesterday, and anyway, there's just a lot. And so by last night when I got home and had my little meltdown and pity party about how hard life was right now, I remembered that I told someone I love very much that it was time for her to keep a gratitude journal. And so I bought her a notebook, and I told her it was her year, her school year to shine. And so I bought myself one too. And even though I was feeling really crappy Friday night, I decided that I was going to sit down. So for the last 3 or 4 nights, every night I've taken the time and I make myself write down just 3 bullet points. I don't go in, I'm not a journaler, so I don't have the attention span to just sit and write. But I put some big bullet points on things that I was grateful for. So I think when we find ourselves in that negative spiral, if we don't stop it and make a conscious choice to get out of it, it just keeps going. So I believe, and what Dr. Santos talks about, is that gratitude is actually one of the things that will combat that. And also showing acts of kindness for other people, realizing that we don't exist for ourselves. We exist to give ourselves away. And so doing kind things to other people and getting our minds off of our poor plight is actually a key to happiness.
Okay. How do you deal with a person who is constantly stuck on negative? And that kind of ties in also to the second question that I've got for you. Should you control your joy if it annoys the people around you? So
Those are great questions.
Dealing with a person constantly stuck on negative. See, I get stuck on negative too. Like you said, you had that this week. So did I. But most of mine is internal. So I don't know that everybody can tell when I'm feeling that way. You know, it's more like on the inside. And so I have to fight it. And what I fight it with is gratitude. Also, I was thinking about that. But sometimes it wins. The bad stuff.
Right.
Sometimes that wins. But somebody that's consistently on negative, for me, it's really hard to be around because I'm fighting that anyway on the inside. So I have to be careful about my boundaries when I am around people that are negative all the time, because I absorb other people's feelings. I'm very empathetic. So I have to be careful with myself because I'll soak that in and it'll drag me down too. So when I am in a better place, I'm a better friend to somebody like that. But if I'm struggling myself, then I have to limit my time with that person just because I have to watch out for me too. So boundaries become important.
Yeah, and I think it's Henry McLeod. Somebody wrote a book called Boundaries that I really do recommend. It talks about how to have healthy boundaries. I think it's why it hit so close to home the other night when my partner said, "You're so negative right now." And I'm like, because that's the last thing I would want to be. And that really hit close to home, and I appreciated him calling that out in me. And he said, "It's not like you." And I said, you know, you're right. And so nobody wants to be around somebody that's constantly negative. And I, for one, can't be, because, you know, I take on those feelings, and, you know, negativity breeds negativity. And so I will say to those that I love, you know, I'll give you some grace, because people give me grace. I mean, we all have bad days, right?
Absolutely.
And Lane Smith will tell you that I am a safe place and will let you vent and fuss and be negative. But then at some point, we have to call each other out on it in love. And she and I do that with each other. She's like, you know, Mama, you're looking at this negatively. Or I did that with her when she was sad about graduating and how do you find a job and COVID and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give you about one more week of this, and then you're going to have to suck it up. And she didn't like me very much in that moment, but it was true. So I think, how do you deal with a person who's consistently stuck on the negative? In love, we tell them. And then therapy is a real thing. Medicine is a real thing if they are clinically depressed. And so that's how I recommend.
And that kind of goes to the second part. Should you control your joy if it annoys the people around you? Because like we were talking about, you know, people feed off of you, or I feed off the negative, it brings you down. So should you kind of bring your joy down a level, you know, if those people around you, if it annoys them? Or because, like, if you're stuck with them, you know, I don't know. That was a good question that somebody submitted. Should you control your joy? I don't think you should. I think you should continue to let it shine and let it go out, so hopefully brings that other person up.
I agree, because I tend to, it's good for me to be around somebody like that, because I'm usually like fighting negative stuff on the inside. You know, I might not look like I am, but it's helpful for me to be around somebody like that. But I also feel like you should be able to say, you know, can you tone it down a little bit?
Yeah,
you know, like maybe not say, hey, you're annoying.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, you know, yes, I think we should be able to. And if they're your true friend, I mean, I read once that you celebrate, you know, when people really love you, when they celebrate with you, like when something really good happens, they celebrate with you.
Exactly.
But I think we also want to be sensitive to each other, right? Like if, you know, somebody's dog just died or pet died or something happened in their job or their family. I mean, the last thing they're feeling like in that moment is, let me just tell you, I just won $500 on a scratch-off lottery ticket.
Right.
I mean, you know, timing is everything.
Yes, timing is important.
Bishop Goodpastor taught me once, he said, timing's everything. So I think that's relevant with joy.
Yes.
So.
Okay, and then our last question here, it's a long one, kind of is a two-parter. I think if Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is my strength. What other scriptures remind you of returning to the Lord's joy when we are challenged in life?
Well, the ones we talked about today. I
think the ones we talked about last week with Amy, we talked about the Psalms.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, you get both. I mean, there's some, you know, if you're feeling really sad and down, you can definitely find a psalm that's depressing. And there's lots of happy ones.
Right. Well, every single psalm, every single one, except for Psalm 88, there's only one psalm out of all 100 plus. It has a yearning or a sad place, and it always resolves. Not all of them have the sad place, but all of the ones that have the, where are you, God?
Right.
Are you here? Why do I feel like you've abandoned me? Every single one reconciles the sadness with joy, except for Psalm 88. And that's the one that we believe Jesus remembered and said when he was in the dungeon on trial, being held before his crucifixion. But all of them. So read the Psalms.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Okay, the other part of that question, it's hard to be consistently joyful in the season of COVID and other issues. You mentioned the political ads. Do you have any books on joy that you'd recommend?
I tell you what, we'll post some on our website. I don't right off the top of my head. There's one by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. I don't know. I'm talking about things I don't remember. I bought a book on joy and started reading it, and clearly don't remember.
And you can't
the name
remember
of
the
it.
name.
But it was an interview between the Dalai Lama and someone. But there are a lot of great books out there that talk about joy, so we will post those in the comments under this YouTube video.
Okay. And then just last one was a comment. Lastly, I find music and Christian praise music as a way to return my heart to the Lord in joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Spotify. And actually, this is a good plug for what we're getting ready to do. We are, for the next 4 weeks, going to have happiness playlist that we put out on all the music platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, maybe Pandora. And it's just going to be songs to make you happy. And some of them are secular songs, but some of them are spiritual songs. When I'm in a bad place, I have to go to my faith. And so Casting Crowns and Elevation Worship, I can't believe I just said that, but Elevation Worship and other groups, they put out great music that is, inspirational for me.
Third Day's one of mine.
Third Day's
Love
amazing.
all theirs.
yep, Newsboys. Yeah, those are really
Yeah,
good.
Newsboys is good too.
Yeah, they got a really
Jars
good
of
one.
Clay. I'm thinking of things
Jars.
back in the 90s.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
showing our age.
Those were
I
my
know.
favorites.
So thank you guys for joining in. Have a great week.